Quando você pensa na Austrália, o que vem à mente? Cangurus, outback, praias paradisíacas, tubarões brancos? Mas a Austrália tem muito mais a oferecer. E eu estou falando sobre o fenômeno ufológico. Alguns dos casos mais incríveis da ufologia mundial de todos os tempos ocorreu na Austrália. Vem comigo nesse documentário incrível e histórico que vai trazer para você casos ufológicos da Austrália impressionantes. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, boa madrugada, onde você estiver. Eu sou o THIAGO. Sejam bem-vindos ao canal Desvendando Mistérios. E se você gosta desse conteúdo de ufologia, não se esqueça de se inscrever no canal. Marque também o sininho para sempre que tiver um vídeo novo, você ser avisado. Não se esqueça também de dar um like em todos os vídeos do canal, são mais de 400. E também deixe a sua opinião nos comentários. Vamos então para esse documentário histórico que vai trazer a ufologia na Austrália para você. Alguns casos tenho certeza que vocês nunca ouviram falar. E são casos impressionantes. Então aproveitem e curtam esse documentário histórico.
There's two types that I see. One type is about 3 feet tall, very dark, very ugly, not humanoid at all. The others are very, very tall, very lizard-looking, not pleasant.
The creatures that I have seen mostly have been the grays.
And when I say tall, I'm not talking 6 feet. I'm talking very tall, like 10 feet tall.
Usually about 3 to 4 foot tall. Real big, almond-shaped, black eyes.
The face was oval. The being itself couldn't have been more than 3 feet tall. It was sitting cross-legged at the top left-hand corner of my bed.
Crazy? Off the planet? Out of their tree? Well, probably. But you certainly wouldn't come here, to Harvard University, to look for support for those beliefs. In the great tradition of the great universities, Harvard is dedicated to the search for truth, the highest standards of intellectual inquiry. But now, the Harvard University Medical School is embracing little grey men. Little grey men from outer space who actually abduct humans.
After I'd worked with 40 or 50 of these individuals, I discovered to my amazement that there simply was no psychiatric explanation of this, that something real had happened to them.
Dr. John Mack is Professor of Psychiatry at the Harvard Medical School. Professor Mack has spent the last few years listening to some people with very strange stories. Are there common factors to these experiences?
Absolutely. The typical story, this would be a condensation of an abduction incident, say. A person is driving along in their car. They may hear a strange humming. They may see a UFO up close, or they may just see the light, powerful light coming down over the car. They feel that the car is no longer in their control. And next thing they know, they're being taken by this light or by some energy. They may see 2, 3 more of these small beings. The most 80 to 90% of them are these little grays with these huge black eyes and rather pear-shaped heads and somewhat spindly bodies. And they are transported up on this energy to the UFO, sometimes through a smaller vehicle, and then that vehicle goes up into the larger mothership.
Now this is so silly, it's funny. But you can't so simply dismiss a man of Professor Mack's standing. In the field of psychiatry, he's highly regarded. He won a Pulitzer Prize for his acclaimed biography of Lawrence of Arabia. And his current study of alien abduction is published by Macmillan's, a respected company, and it's a bestseller.
What has happened to these people is what they say has happened to them, even though I fully recognize that that's not possible in the worldview in which they and I were raised.
Well, then how is it possible?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Either we try to shrink the phenomenon into something where it, as far as I can tell, won't fit, or we're going to have to stretch our notions of the possible.
Well, we shouldn't be so open-minded that we're flabby, you know. There's a certain limit to open-mindedness, and this is it.
Dr. Paul McHugh is also a professor of psychiatry at the very prestigious Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore. He says Dr. Mack's theories are utter nonsense.
Well, Doctor, is the profession embarrassed when one of your colleagues puts forward theories like this?
Oh, yes, we're very embarrassed, and embarrassed for the profession and a little worried about John himself.
What, he's gone off the rails a bit?
Well, John is a man of great gift and great intelligence, but he's also a man who tends to take on enthusiasms, and in this time he's gone too far. We're worried about him. We hope he'll pull himself together and come back.
I mean, do you think that Dr. Mack is off the rails?
Off the rails? What does that mean?
Well, he's a little deranged. Dr. Malkar Notman is the chairman of John Mack's faculty at Harvard. That means she's his boss. But she doesn't think that believing in little grey men is grounds for dismissal.
You know, we've all had those experiences in which you decide something is utter nonsense, and then you really learn that maybe half of it is utter nonsense, and the other half you really should have paid attention to. And I think we've all had that happen, so that I think we don't want to leap in and say you've got to leave the faculty because what you're doing is, you know, bizarre or nonsense.
Doctor, do you believe that there are little grey men out there?
I personally don't believe any of it.
Blue men?
Any kind of little grey men.
6 foot, 3 foot, 9 foot?
Well, my experiences started when I was very young. I can remember as far back as 6 years old, you know, being in my room, just going to bed, and then aware that there were 6 light shafts coming down through the ceiling and would stand around my bed and start turning into a human-like looking form.
They do seem to be able to walk through walls and materialize. I thought for a while they were ghosts when I was younger, but these beings materialize into a physical form, so it's hard to say. They might be from another dimension, so to speak, or anything like that.
This being rushed at me across the bed. She had a tool in her hand and she was performing some mysterious procedure on me.
What did it involve?
I wasn't allowed to lift my head, so all I could see was what I could see looking down across my face. And I saw the tool. I don't even want to know what she was doing. It was horrible. It was frightening, and it lasted a long time.
For those who have been abducted by aliens, there's a support group with its headquarters just 5 minutes from Harvard. Most of the abductees seem to live near Boston and are patients of Dr. Mack, which makes you wonder how the aliens choose their victims.
I have no idea how the abductees are chosen. They seem to cut across every socioeconomic level. They seem to be, this is kind of paradoxical since everyone's always trying to blame this on psychopathology, they seem to be unusually mentally sound. In other words, they seem to pick people who are particularly strong, stable, open-minded.
I'm not saying that these people who are making these claims are wild people in themselves. They have just developed a wild idea. And we have plenty of patients and plenty of people that have quite strange and false ideas about themselves. For example, feeling that they're a woman when they're a man, or feeling they're fat when they're as thin as a rake. We have all kinds of people like that, and we try to help them to see reality for what it is, not go along with their idea as though they were the judges of truth.
There's a certain sensation that you feel when they are around. It's not something you go looking for. It's all of a sudden, it's a sensation within your cell structure, actually.
Has Professor Mack been a helper?
He's been a big help. The biggest thing he's done for me is because of who he is. You know, I went to him because I really wanted him to tell me that, you know, I was hallucinating, or there was something physiologically wrong with me, or maybe I was just plain crazy. And he didn't. And after listening to me, and he looked me right in the eye and said, you know, you're not crazy.
Is it possible that Dr. Mack has stumbled upon a whole new area of psychiatry?
No. In fact, all he has discovered is a phenomenon that's been known to psychiatry for decades. In fact, here in this
According to Dr. McHugh, the type of stories told by John Mack's patients were first classified as false memories in a psychiatric textbook published in 1912.
Is there any danger in what he's doing?
Oh, I think there is, yes, and I quite clearly believe that these patients that he is claiming have been abducted, do have psychological problems, and those problems are being masked by this idea that the explanation is this crazy one.
Did you ever think you were going crazy?
No. No. The only thing that I thought might be possible is that there was something that was causing a very consistent experience. What that something was, I didn't know, but I never thought that I was crazy.
In its long and distinguished history, Harvard University has given the world some notable discoveries. It's just hard to believe, though, that aliens from outer space is one of them. John Mack may be off with the pixies, or the aliens, but he still draws a healthy salary, and Harvard professors are never, ever sacked.
Well, sir, Harvard professor or not, anyone who believes what you do would believe anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not a matter of believing, Richard. I mean, I think to me this was utterly not possible when I first heard about it, and I didn't write about it, I didn't speak publicly about it for 2 years. This grew out of the experiences of case after case after case, so it was not like believing anything. I came cautiously, reluctantly, gradually to take this as seriously as I did.
He's taken up an idea that, well, it's at its root incoherent. It doesn't make any sense. And he has no evidence for it either. The two of those things combined makes you think that John has lost it this time.
In the end, Professor McHugh says it's not a laughing matter. Psychiatrists have a duty of care for their patients.
As I say, one can propose almost anything in relationship to reality, but eventually the time has come to prove it and not simply assert it.
What the source of this is, who these beings are, where they come from, what creates this intelligence, I don't know. But there's something profoundly important going on here that is authentic and real.
E então, o que vocês acharam? Para quem pensava que a Austrália era só a terra dos cangurus, certamente se surpreendeu com esse documentário muito bem produzido. Casos fantásticos, alguns casos clássicos da ufologia mundial. A Austrália mostrou mais uma vez que é um local de grande incidência ufológica. Alguns dos melhores casos do mundo estão lá. Mas e você? O que achou deste documentário? Deixe a sua opinião aqui nos comentários do vídeo. Um abraço e até a próxima.